Breaking news from The Athletic.
What's up? Welcome in. Breaking news is that we're live on Friday morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
The Bears have a new, presumably, right tackle.
Starting right tackle. Just call it what Darnell Wright's going to be.
What's going on? You get enough sleep last night?
Kind of. Actually, no. The baby woke up at 3.
Oh, come on, baby.
And
you got to understand
then-
it's the draft.
For some reason, one of the smoke alarms, one of the carbon monoxide alarms, decided to have its battery life expire the night after the first day of the draft. So it was beeping at 4:45 this morning. And I had to find it. I had to find which one in the house.
Got to change those batteries ahead of the draft. You got to plan for all scenarios.
Those things are supposed to last 10 years, like first-round picks.
Yeah, there you go. Like maybe Darnell Wright, the new Bears right tackle from Tennessee. What's going on, Bears fans? We're live. We decided to go live this morning. Of course, just the way things working with our responsibilities last night. Couldn't do the podcast last night, but we're up and ready to go to break this thing down with you on Hoge Jahns. Johnsy, we had a great turnout last night at our CHGO live show at Joe's on Weed Street. A lot of Hoge Jahns shirts. There are a lot of people wondering where you were. A lot of people wanting you to be there too. I think more than me, which is fine. But when you have 17,
well, that's understandable. I get the feelings.
When you have 17 kids and have to be at Hal's Hall, it's just,
Yes, I got to be at Hal's Hall again today. So sorry if you're looking for me at your Friday party, but I will be up there to meet Darnell Wright at 3:45 this afternoon.
But shout out to the Hoge Jahns listeners that were there last night. We appreciate it. And if you want to come out tonight, we're running it back. Myself, Corey Wooten, Mark Carman, Greg Braggs, Will DeWitt, we're all going to be there. And more picks to break down tonight. 3 as it stands right now, unless the Bears move around, which I have a feeling they'll move around on one of those 3 picks, as they did last night. Let's break it down. So we have it covered from a lot of different angles. I just went back and rewatched the tape against Alabama. I'd seen it before. That was the game that Darnell Wright played really well against Will Anderson. We'll talk about that a little bit. Johnsy was at Hallis Hall in the press conference with Ryan Poles. You guys got a chance to talk to Sam Somerville too, right? The scout?
No, he was on ESPN 1000.
Oh, that's where that came from? Okay.
Correct.
Sorry, I didn't. Okay, I was just seeing
The
tweets.
Scouts will be available to us at Hallis Hall on day 3.
Got it. Okay, good to know. And of course, but you guys did talk to Darnell Wright a little bit too. So a lot of things to discuss here. Just, I guess, what was your overall takeaway with the way things played out? You ended up having a situation where both Jalen Carter and Peter Skronsky were still available, and they went Darnell Wright.
Well, your immediate reaction when the news breaks that the Eagles are trading up is that Jalen Carter is not high in the Bears board, or maybe not on there at all.
Mm-hmm.
They had an opportunity to take him just like other teams in front of them, the Lions, the Raiders. They all passed to. Seahawks, all 3 of those teams linked to Jalen Carter at some point, passed to. I don't know if you want to play the Ryan Poles audio right now, but that was a complicated evaluation. It was more than just the on-field talent. We all know that. But it became clear to me a bit ago, like there was a reason why I never mocked them to the Bears, because I thought the Bears, based on what I was hearing, based on my research, all that stuff, they're eyeing one of the top offensive linemen, whether it's Paris Johnson Jr., Peter Skronsky, and in their case, Darnell Wright. I always thought they were going that direction. So I felt confident that was happening, but I think there's still some shock out there that the Bears passed on Jalen Carter, especially in the way they did with the Eagles moving up 1 pick to take him.
I think Jalen Carter is going to end up being a perfect example of fit being huge, and what a great spot for him. And I have a feeling he's going to end up being a really good player for them. And a lot of teams are going to sit there and say, well, you passed on Jalen Carter. Well, guess what? If he ended up, to my opinion, in the perfect situation.
Yeah. You're saying, instead of when you say fit, you're not just talking about being the 3 technique that you need. You're talking about organizationally.
The amount of veterans that they have in that organization with Philadelphia right now.
Some of his former teammates are there.
They're drafting Georgia guys like crazy, and not only the situation, the fit was great when they drafted him. 2 hours later, they had Nolan Smith, his teammate from Georgia. And if anyone knows, the ins and outs of being in the locker room and a teammate with them, Nolan Smith, who's a high character, possible future team captain now for the Eagles. What a great night for the Eagles, by the way, to pull out both of those guys somehow. The rich get richer. But I just, I wanted to get that on record today that whatever happens in Philly, and I have a feeling it's going to be good, that doesn't necessarily mean that would have played out the same way in other spots. We'll see where he goes, and it may still not work. But I understand why Ryan Poles ultimately passed. I think we have the audio here on Ryan Poles sort of talking about this situation.
Yeah, that's, I knew that question would come up. I think what I'd rather do with that is just stick with talking about Darnell. We felt comfortable that was the guy that we wanted. Even though Philly, we did the swap with Philly, we felt really good about that.
When you did the swap, did you have a pretty good idea what Philly was going for?
Yeah, I wasn't going to take the chance to miss on Darnell, so we knew, had a good sense of it, so we were good with it.
Was Philly the only team that called at 9?
There was another team. It didn't get too heated up, and it was in a spot where I had a really good sense that Darnell would be at risk to be gone.
So, in other words, they had Darnell Wright. Whether Jalen Carter was on the board or not, they had Darnell Wright much higher. And when it came down to it, they had him higher than Peter Skronsky. Yeah. Because you heard it right there. There was another team that was calling about moving up to 9, and they felt like, and that team was obviously farther back. They had to be. The Eagles had the next pick. And they felt like if they moved back that far, they weren't going to get Darnell Wright. And it is notable that the Tennessee Titans took Peter Skronsky 1 pick later. So maybe that's the team that they thought would take Wright. And instead they got Skronsky. I'm sure that those are the types of stories that tend to leak out over the years or even days sometimes. Maybe we'll get more clarity on that here this weekend. But you got to trust the board, I guess. Everyone's allowed to have their opinions. We both had Skronsky higher than Wright. I like Darnell Wright a lot, though. He was my number 2 offensive tackle when it was all said and done.
Yeah, patting the back to you.
So are we going to Portillo's today, or
you know me? I'll get you like a year and a half from now.
I was going to say, or 6 months from now would be lucky. If you missed the show the other day, we did make a bet because our final picks were you had Skronsky, I had Darnell Wright, and we bet Portillo's on it. And then we weirdly said that if it was neither, then Kevin Fishbane has to buy lunch, which really didn't make any sense, but
it'll make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you involve Kevin somehow.
By giving him the field, but not in a way that he wins. He loses if it's the field.
I think this is a classic example, a good example of how teams' boards can be different than what you're seeing like outside wise. Like I stick to the beast. I love Dane Brugler's work. I like Daniel Jeremiah's work, Mel Kiper, and even Todd McShay now are they're legends in the ESPN NFL draft analyst world. They just are. They all do outstanding work, but it's an example of how teams' boards will differ for a lot of different reasons. A lot. It's like the Jets taking Will McDonald. It's Christian Gonzalez falling into the teens. Boards are always different, and it varies team by team. Needs are pressed by other teams and whatnot. But I was convinced going into yesterday that the Bears strongly wanted one of the best offensive linemen. I don't know where that shook out. I knew they liked Peter Skronsky. Ryan Poles said that. I thought they liked Darnell Wright. We saw that come to fruition, but getting Justin Fields some help was a priority for the Bears. And, if you're upset about Jalen Carter, I don't think you should forget that now Justin Fields, who was sacked 55 times last year, now is a starting right tackle who didn't allow a sack at all in 2022, including against Alabama.
Something we pointed out on last night's show. Obviously, I trust Corey Wooten's analysis on this stuff a lot because not only did he play defensive end and slide inside a lot in his career too, he played in this defense, this scheme, and he really understands it. And one thing he said, and we talked about last night, and we've talked about before too, is the thing about the 3 technique, it is a massive spot in this defense. And Eberflus has called it the engine of the defense. But the thing is you don't necessarily need an all-pro there. You need a good player, but you don't necessarily need Jalen Carter. You can find, as long as you can find the guy that really can shoot that gap and consistently get some pass rush through the middle, you don't necessarily, that doesn't necessarily need to mean 7 sacks, and it just needs to mean constant pressure and also being able to, hold the B gap on backside runs. But the point there being, the Bears can still find that guy tonight, I think. I still think that's very possible. Now, if you want to sit there and make an argument that, yeah, they also could have probably signed a right tackle between now and training camp and gotten away with it like they sort of did with Riley Reef, sure. But
they didn't get away with anything.
Yeah, they were still sitting there last night needing a right
Riley
tackle.
was 34 years old and like in his 10th season, he needed to get younger and better.
Yeah. So I look, there's a number of different ways to look at it. I guess all I'm saying is, and full disclosure, and I've been honest about this, like the way I had it ordered at that point was between those 3 players. I had Skoronski, then I had Jalen Carter, and then I had Darnell Wright. But I loved all 3, and I think that's got to be perfectly clear. So going back to what you said about how teams' boards are different from obviously the media's, and they know more.
And team to team.
Yeah, and team to team. Like the Lions drafted a running back and Jack Campbell.
I heard this last night. It's like the Lions are back in the 1990s and drafting again.
I know.
What's David Montgomery thinking, by the way?
Considering the Bears thought that their offer was competitive, and I wonder if David Montgomery would have made a different decision had he known they were going to use a first-round pick on a running back.
There's one thing I want to highlight about the evaluation of Darnell Wright. It's the inclusion of Chris Morgan and how deep this team they go. Not just like in the research, but the workout they put this guy through.
Yeah, tell us about that, because
they threw him in a pool. They made him swim.
Okay, I was listening to that on my ride home from our show. Did he mean literally they made him swim in a pool?
I think that needs to be clarified today. Like,
okay, I thought it was like a metaphor. We threw him, we threw him in the deep water.
Yes.
I don't think he meant they literally threw him in a pool.
I hope not.
I kind of hope they did. That's hilarious.
Right. Either way, the work on Darnell Wright was extensive. They met with him at the Combine. Luke Getsy coached him at the Senior Bowl. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. And then in the day before Easter, the Bears go to Tennessee and put him through hell. And he survived. And they liked that he was willing to do everything they wanted to do. They wanted to test his will, his might a bit. And he passed their test. Their conviction grew. And Chris Morgan was a big part of that. Darnell Wright shared the story last night that Morgan, upon talking to him finally after the draft, said he wanted to call him so bad to just tell me it was the pick. Right? So that tells you right there how high Darnell Wright was on the Bears list of blue players. Like, this was our guy in the 9 to 10 range, and we have to be sure to get him.
Which it sounds like is why they only traded. The reason they only went back one is because that was the only offer they had on the table, or because, and it sounds like there was another team calling, they just were too afraid to lose Darnell Wright. So the Bears have the Eagles' fourth round pick tomorrow, and they have their 4th round pick next year. Not bad.
No,
I mean, it's just 4th round pick, but
Doug here in the comments brings up a good point. Wright survived and came out really wanting to come play for the Bears. Yes, I got that sense.
Well, and didn't Wright tell that to you guys? He said, he's like, it felt like they were trying to make me quit. And he wanted to show him that he could finish it. And that was, as Poles said, after a week of grueling travel and a bunch of visits, which sounds like he visited House Hall that same week, right?
Yeah, I think earlier that week.
So among the visits he had traveling, he was at House Hall. He goes all over the place. It's Saturday. The Bears go out there to Knoxville and work them out. And that was about the same time that you started hearing a little bit of whispers about how much the Bears liked them. So it makes a lot of sense now in hindsight that Easter weekend workout apparently what sold them on Darnell Wright. And, good for him passing that test. Can we talk a little bit about the tape then? I mean, he has some big time performances against good players. And
Will Anderson.
When you go through the tape, I mean, you really got to pay attention to that stuff because and it's not easy. I mean, you go watch Braxton Jones a year ago, and you're looking at FCS tape and a team that went 1-10. And by the way, the one game where he played a solid team in Arizona State, that was probably his worst tape. So you can't just base it totally off that, but that was a 5th round swing on measurables, really, and makeup. In the first round, when you play in the SEC, you got a bunch of matchups, and you can go back to last year too. And I actually didn't think Darnell Wright played that well in 2021 when he was a left tackle. Well, he played pretty well against Travon Walker, who ended up being the first overall pick last year.
Ryan Poles kind of highlighted that as well. Like, it's not just the players this past season. It's current professional players that he's played in the past at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Darnell Wright started, 34 consecutive games?
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. He's durable.
That durability matters, man.
It took him a little while to get going, and it really didn't seem like everything clicked until last year. But, look, you go back and watch that tape against Alabama. Sure, there's plenty of reps where they get some help from the right guard or a tight end or running back, but there's also plenty of one-on-one true pass rush reps. And Will Anderson can't find a way to get around him. There's really one play the whole game that I saw where he really got in the backfield. And if that's all you gave up, and it wasn't a sack, and if that's all you gave up the whole game, that's a performance that makes you money like it did for Darnell Wright last night.
Here's my thought on Will Anderson. Isn't that the player the Texans really wanted at number 2?
Yeah.
But they had to take a quarterback. They had to. And then they traded so much to get back up to number 3 to get Will Anderson. It's the type of trade you make for a quarterback, which they kind of did with C.J. Stroud. But if you want to talk deeply about this, I would think Will Anderson was their top choice, but they needed to take a quarterback as well.
Right. That's exactly how I look at it. It in a vacuum, that trade just to get Will Anderson seems a little ridiculous. And I think it was the responsible and smart move for the Cardinals, who, by the way, then went back up and got Paris Johnson. But I think you really have to look at that trade as they were really making that trade for C.J. Stroud. Or they were making a trade to get both of them. Because you do it the opposite way. You take Will Anderson, then you don't know what the other offers are. You have the chance of losing your quarterback. They had to get their quarterback at the end of the day. And they did. Good for them. My problem with it is, to me, Johns, they're not a team, the Texans, that can afford to not have a first-round pick next year. It's not like they're ready to win.
No.
So that's where I got a little, okay, I feel like you still could have sat back there and gotten a decent player. Or, but I had a feeling they might end up with their quarterback and Will Anderson. I thought it might end up being Will Levis, doing it the opposite way around, but good for them. They got C.J. Stroud. Will Levis is still on the board going into Friday.
He is. Sorry, let me get my thoughts.
Did you short out?
I did short out here. Let me take another sip of coffee here.
Get that brain moving again. 3, 2, 1.
I kind of like the idea that selecting Darnell Wright doesn't force a major reshuffling.
Yeah,
that was my hang up with Peter Skronsky. Sure, you may be able to try him at right tackle, right? Or maybe he's best at left guard. There would be an experimentation process with Peter Skronsky. With Darnell Wright, you go Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Cody Whitehair, Nate Davis, and now Wright at right tackle. I like giving Braxton Jones, your starting left tackle, who played all the games last year as a rookie, some continuity. We've seen too much in the past this organization not provide their young players continuity. This gives one of them in a premium position some of that.
Yeah, still, I have not followed what Tennessee said about what they're going to do with Skronsky last night. I apologize. There's been a lot of Bear stuff, so I don't know if they're planning on playing him at right tackle or at guard, but I still think he can be a tackle. Corey Wooten thinks he could still be a left tackle, which most people at least conceded that he should probably move to the right side. Time will tell. But regardless, I do feel comfortable, and I said this multiple times. Darnell Wright really grew on me the more and more I watched him. Because the first day at Senior Bowl practices, he got beat in one-on-ones quite a bit. I didn't think it was a great day. I kind of was like, okay, I don't know, not big on this guy. But I also, at that point, didn't know a ton about him. And then the more and more you look into it and you realize how physical he is, the way he can anchor, he is wide-shouldered. Like and the way he's able to move as big as he is, but he sits down and because Will Anderson, he likes to do that Khalil Mack speed to power stuff. And he's built sort of built similarly. He's got a similar athletic profile, and that just was not working on Darnell Wright in that game. Now, here's the big question I have. Athletically, he certainly has the athleticism to fit the Bears scheme. But one of my concerns about Wright was just that you don't see a lot of that on the tape. They run sort of a gimmicky offense, and it's not similar to what the Bears do. And there's not a whole lot. There's certainly not a lot of. First of all, they don't run the ball a ton, and they don't run outside zone. So there's a little bit of a projection there. But I have to imagine, with what you said earlier, how involved Chris Morgan was in this process, that they feel very comfortable that that's not going to be a problem. But it is going to have to be something we just pay close attention to in training camp.
Well, that's why you fly into Knoxville, Tennessee, in the day before Easter. Which, ironically, I think I was passing through.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was driving through Tennessee on the way to Gatlinburg at that point. Huh. The irony.
Why didn't you think to just stop by Knoxville?
The funny thing is we talked about stopping in Knoxville, but if I can remember correctly, there were storms in that area that day. So we found an opening, and we just kept going.
Yeah, there was a big storm. It was Darnell Wright.
Yeah, the Bears were there.
Creating a storm for the Bears.
Because they threw him in a pool. Literally or unliterally. We don't know. We'll find out.
I'm going to choose to believe, even though I'm pretty sure it's that they didn't literally throw him in the pool. I'm choosing to believe they did.
Yeah. It's a swim.
All right, buddy. Sink or swim. Let's go.
But the Jahns family was making their way through Tennessee at that point. Huh. Imagine that. What if we stopped there and we saw the Bears at like a Cracker Barrel or something like that? Anyway, but that's why you put them through a workout.
Waffle House.
A Bojangles. We had some Bojangles down there.
Ooh, I like Bojangles.
That's why you fly your offensive line coach, who's considered one of the best in the league, who knows your scheme well, who's taught it under Kyle Shanahan. You bring him into Tennessee and make Darnell Wright move. And apparently he moved just well enough. But yes, I understand that some of the things you see on tape doesn't fit what the Bears want. But you know what does? His nasty demeanor. Ryan Poles made sure to highlight that last night. And the more I think about it, it's probably what set him apart from guys like Peter Skronsky. Sometimes you want bullies. You want nasty. Ryan Poles does. Talks about it all the time for his line. That's why I think Tevin Jenkins has endeared himself to Ryan Poles a little bit. Why Nate Davis has some of that. Darnell Wright's part of that now.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch with three guys like that. Because I even said this to Tevin at one point last season. I was like, dude, your tape is just fun to watch. Like, regardless of, what's going on or where you're playing, like, it's just to see the way you finish. And there was a couple plays like that on this Alabama tape with Darnell Wright. This poor linebacker tries to get in there, and on back-to-back plays, he just drives them all the way from the right side to the left side and pancakes them. Like, yeah, you might want to line up somewhere else. That's not working.
And when you try to end that momentum and, that just ends with you on your back when you're a defender.
I can't imagine Darnell Wright landing on me. I would be broken.
Here's the question I have for you. The Bears have 22 picks in front of them. 7 defensive ends / edge rushers were taken in the first round. There was a little late run on them.
Mm-hmm.
What do? It's considered a deep class for pass rushers. But you're sitting back at 53. Do you try to move up for one, knowing you need one?
Yeah, right at the end of the draft, the last 3 picks, right at the end of last night's first round, I should say, the last 3 picks, Miles Murphy to the Bengals, Brian Brzee to the Saints, and Nolan Smith to the Eagles. You know, I was fairly confident that Murphy and Smith were going to be off the board anyway. Now, Mozzie Smith, we don't necessarily know how the Bears felt about him. I think he's more of a one technique. He went to the Cowboys at 26, but you're right. A bunch of guys sort of came off the board there. However, as it stands right now, Keanu, if we're just talking about defensive tackles or edge rushers, Keanu Benton is still there from Wisconsin. Adetomoa Adebore from Northwestern. I think both of those guys can be 3 techniques. Maybe a little bit later on, but I still think he is deserving of going some point tonight, even if it's in the 3rd round. But Carl Brooks from Bowling Green, who we've talked about, I like him a lot. That's a possibility. And then as far as the edge rushers go, BJ Ojulari from LSU.
It's one of my guys.
Who I like a lot. And Derek Hall from Auburn, who I like a lot. And Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame, who really, if you look at him, he looks like a Bears hits guy. I mean, he's got the size, the length. He fits the 4-3 hand on the ground, defensive end. Coaches love coaching him. He's relentless on the field. He has the production. So I still like this board going in tonight, Johns. But you're right. There are a lot of players, a lot of picks still. And I think the big question is, do the Bears get antsy and move up for once?
If you're trying to compare it, because this is what I imagine Ryan Poles doing as he walks in his room. And they're going to have meetings again. It's Friday morning. They have to look at their board again, right? You look at your stacks, your grades, right? And then you start seeing which positions are heavy, which ones are thin. There's a lot of good cornerbacks available. A lot of them. There's a lot of good interior offensive linemen available. There's a lot of tight ends available if you wanted to dive into that deep class. Only one tight end of this heralded class went in the first round. The kid from Utah. You could wait on that. Some good running backs if you want to consider that as well. But defensive back, interior line, especially center, 2 needs for the Bears. Like, you could probably wait on those a little bit. But those defensive positions, to help Matt Eberflus's defense, to find that engine, a 3 technique, to find a better pass rusher than what you currently have, you might have to make some moves, man. Because there's 22 picks in front of you right now.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And I don't. Obviously, we don't know what the board looks like. We don't know how they think about Keanu Benton, Adetomoa, or Carl Brooks, or even Gervon Dexter from Florida. I should say Gervon. Say it correctly. Gervon Dexter is big dude, athletic, durable. But if 2 or 3 of those guys go early tonight, and there's only one left, on this pocket of guys you would take tonight, unless you have a Braxton Jones equivalent on your board tomorrow night, it's a deep sleeper you think can play right away and not have to develop. I mean, you might have to make that move tonight. As much as I agree with a lot of the comments we're seeing right now, trading up usually doesn't work out. Give up future draft capital. I think you do everything you can not to do that. But the importance of that position and passing on Jalen Carter last night, it may force the Bears' hand a little bit to go get their guy if there's only one left.
I think what I would say to that is that teams move around all the time.
Yeah.
Say you move up a little bit in the second, and then you turn 61 and you move back and gain some extra early 3rd round picks.
Well, the Eagles are the perfect example.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we should not underestimate Ian Cunningham's role in the Bears front office right now, and should give comfort to Bears fans. When you see what the Eagles have done and how many trades that they pulled off, they have moved up. They've traded for A.J. Brown, right, on draft night. And yet they're still sitting there last night with a bonus extra top 10 pick. after being in the Super Bowl, which is another reason why they have the luxury to take a flyer on Jalen Carter. They ain't their pick. They still had another pick later in the first round. And they could say, look, this was a bonus just from us doing business well. We can take this chance. We have the locker room to stomach it. So, and they moved up. They moved up one spot in the process to get their guy. They traded a 4th rounder earlier in the season to get Robert Quinn. So the point is, you can do both. The Eagles are showing you that you can make plenty of trades back, get those future first-round picks, draft capital, but then when you need to go get your guy in the draft, you go get him. The problem is when you do it like 7 times in a row and then you have nothing.
You're about to remind people of Ryan Pace and the way he operated. But, there were times where Ryan Pace, he moved up for Leonard Floyd. Then he moved back for Cody Whitehair. Cody Whitehair's been here longer. I think Ryan Poles, at least that he showed last year, he wants more draft capital. But I don't think he's going to be afraid to move up a few spots. I don't think you're going to see him jump from I'd be stunned if he goes from 53 now all the way up to 32, 33. 32
that would
32 still there, by the way. That's why, Chase Claypool pick. But that's what I'm getting at. I don't think he's making that much of a leap. I think he's going to try to play his board a bit, but all teams try to do that. And then you could get, you could trade back and recoup that value a bit. But it'll be interesting. I do think that pass rusher and that 3 technique tackle may require some action if you really like a guy, though.
So what would be the highest, and we're obviously just guessing, but what would be the highest you could see the Bears moving up? 40?
I just go back to what Scott Fitterer said in that piece we did on trading the first pick. He said that that 30 to 50 range is just there's a great pool of players. We're talking about pools again. A great pool of players in that range. And the Bears are just right there. So maybe they go to 48, 45, maybe 47, somewhere in that range to get their 3 technique, to get their pass rusher. But yeah, I can't see them making a huge leap.
Yeah, and the cost on that might only be one of those 4th round picks they have and a future.
The Eagles' future fourth from last year.
Now, when the Bears traded up
when
the Bears traded up to get Anthony Miller, though, they gave up next year's 2nd.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Don't do that.
So I think it's a scenario Bears fans need to be prepared for tonight.
Yeah, but if you're looking at go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say though, if they don't trade up and they end up being there at 53 with the picks they have, and now they have 3 shots at another pool of players. That's where I wonder if they trade back one of those spots.
Yeah, and cornerback could be one of those positions where you could sit and wait on. DJ Turner still available, Clark Phillips, Tyreek Stevenson, Julius Brents, Cam Mitchell from Northwestern. I mean, a lot of these guys have starting caliber grades. You can wait it out. Only 4 cornerbacks went in the first round as compared to 7 edge rushers. I'm interested to see how much the tight ends come into play.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Bears, knowing that you really like Cole Kmet, knowing that you're going to give him a contract extension, I'm sure you would love to see a mini run on tight ends in front of you. So some of those defensive players fall to you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What you don't want to see is, a run on those defensive linemen, especially the interior guys. But I'm excited. I'm going to get some coffee, probably a Red Bull this afternoon, and get right back at it tonight.
Red Bull, what are you 18? You wish.
I wish, yeah. No, I'm 37. I turned 37, and my back gave out, and now I need 3 months of rehab. And
it's all right. I cracked open an A&W root beer in the Hallis Hall media room last night at about 11 p.m.
Let me guess. The first person who commented was Pat Finley.
Actually, no, it was Kevin Fishbane.
Oh, okay.
Pat was plugging away, and Kevin goes, "Oh, root beer, huh?"
Yeah, it's what's available.
Correct.
We need some caffeine.
Because they got this Dr. Pepper cream soda.
Yeah.
There's just the fridge is overflowing with that crap. No one's
And
drinking
the-
that crap other than
and the-
Pat Finley.
And the RC Cola was gone?
No, there's RC Cola. I'll take a picture of an RC Cola for everybody today from Alice
Yeah.
Hall.
Not a first-round pick, the RC Cola. Maybe a late sleeper, though, in the right situation.
Oh, it's a great pairing with pizza, everybody.
Okay. I could go for some pizza.
It's Friday. Pizza night.
Joe's had some pizza last night. Come out. We got the pizza.
There's going to be Luminati's at Alice Hall tonight.
You can't get a ticket to Alice Hall, though.
That's true.
Kind of makes me want to go to Alice, so get some lose. All right. Well, this was fun going live. Make sure you're following all the work. Of course, John Z, Kevin Fishbane have you covered on The Athletic from last night, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. We had Nicholas Moriano out at Alice Hall, so you can check out his coverage at allchgo.com. Go back and check out our live reactions last night, too. We have the full show that's available for you if you want to really go through all of the lead up to the Darnell Wright pick. But I believe we also posted a 15-minute clip on the CHGO YouTube channel of just when the pick was made. Johns, I should have said this earlier. Corey Wooten said right away that he made a Trent Williams comp. He actually did that before the Bears picked Darnell Wright. But he said he reminds him of Trent Williams. And he thinks that Darnell Wright can be a rookie Pro Bowler.
Wow.
Pro Bowler as a rookie. He's not the only one, by the way. Louis Riddick
Loves this pick. Yeah.
said he could be the best player in the draft.
My son told me this morning as I was making my coffee, Dad, the guy on TV gave the Bears an A+ for the pick. The Jets got a D-.
Take that, Aaron Rodgers.
We got one question here. Yeah, take that from I think it was Mike Schumacher. Who do you guys personally like for tonight? So you're the one with the foresight now.
Yeah. See if I can go 2 for 2. Probably not. All right. I'm looking at our CHGO Bears 100 draft board right now. I give you an idea who the best players available are. One surprise, the best player available right now to us is Joey Porter Jr., who somehow didn't get drafted last night. So that was definitely interesting.
Again, another sign that this is a deep cornerback class. Like, you think he'll be off within the first 5 or 6 picks, right?
Yeah,
You
I would think he
that.
goes early tonight. Yeah. I think now a couple of guys that I certainly like for the Bears. I think they're great fits. Definitely Big Ten bias here, right? Everybody pour it on. John Michael Schmitz. That's not Big Ten bias for me. That's a gopher. Get out of here. But he's good. Can't deny that. JMS, Homewood Flossmoor, local kid. Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. Adetomo Adebore, who I think would be a great fit if he's still. That's the one who I still could see slipping to 53. Osiris Torrance is still available. Joe Tittman from Wisconsin. I think these BJ Ojulari we talked about earlier. I think these are all guys that could fit.
I like Ojulari. He was on my list of favorite players in terms of defensive backs who was on my list. Where is he at? Quan Martin, but that's more of a 3rd round pick. Your safety from Penn State is still there. So there's
Brown.
There's some good players out there, and some good players. Centers, guard center, Steve Avila from TCU. He's still out there. Cody Mosh. That beast of
Cody
a man.
Mock. Yeah.
Mock. Yes, sorry.
North Dakota State.
Yes.
They want to add to the interior of the offensive line. Certainly. How about this? I'll shoot my shot. Maybe they have 3 picks and they might move around. So I don't know which pick it's going to be. Kind of the same thing I did with Darnell Wright. He was my pick, but I didn't know if it'd be at 9 or if they trade back. I'm going to say that shooting my shot tonight, I'm going to say Darius Rush, the cornerback from South Carolina, ends up being a Bear.
Okay. I'm going to say Keanu Benton, defensive tackle from Wisconsin.
Let's go.
Double down on Portillo's?
Get the helmet ready. Should I just bring this to the show tonight?
Joe Tittman. Who else is a second round bad?
I don't know why I have the red helmet, by the way. Just sent this to me. Maybe Maybe they're trying to get rid of them. I have no idea because they only wore red helmets like, I don't know, 3 times ever.
Nick Herbig.
There you go. If you just want to draft Badgers. Okay. Well, let's get back to work. Again, make sure you're following all the coverage today. And if you want to come out tonight, I had a couple of people asking questions. Go to allchgo.com. We also are accepting walk-ups too. So if you just want to make a last-minute decision, it is Friday night.
Get out.
Have something to do. Come hang out. Joe's Bar on Wheat Street. It was super fun last night. It's gonna be a lot of fun tonight, and we'll keep the party going to pretty late again tonight because 2 rounds, second and third round. The merch is up at obviousshirts.com. You see the hoodie that Johns is wearing. Get that, and all the other Hoge Jahns merchandise is up there. All right, we will. When are we coming back? I don't even know. Are we doing another show this weekend?
I think you might hear from us on Sunday for a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe a quick recap of what could be a couple busy days. They got 9 picks.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, there's a good chance you'll hear from us before Tuesday. We'll communicate on Twitter. And again, we apologize. We had a couple people reach out to us that the schedule changed this week. We did mention it, but I know not everybody hears it. So if it screwed up your week, we apologize. But we want to make sure that every time we do a show, we're giving you the best content available. So sometimes that involves shifting the show like we've had to do to go to Wednesday, Friday this week. But as always, we appreciate the support. Please stay with us. Please follow all the work on The Athletic and allchgo.com. And we'll talk to you again soon.
See ya.